You have seen my top 5 AI stocks. Now we're going to talk about the top 10, and I brought Mike on here. You guys have we obviously seen our AI videos. In the top 5 again was my core. And Mike agrees. I wanted to be in those 5 to kind of cast that net because they are the tech giants, right? They're Meta, Microsoft, Tesla, Apple, and Google. And would you agree, Mike? One of those guys is going to win the AI race? Or I guess the likelihood.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
So I thought it'd be cool to do a top 10, especially
Same
when you
page.
brought it up to me. Yeah. um, when you brought it up to me, I was thinking, okay, because people have asked, because I'm not just in those 5 tickers. There's cybersecurity. There's not to mention Nvidia, Nvidia and AMD. So we're just gonna wing it. We're gonna go off the cuff. We're gonna go over the would it technically be the top 15? We're going to go over top 10 additional to these, or what are you thinking on that one?
I was just thinking the top 10, just top 10 in general.
Okay. Okay. Then wing it. What's your top? Well, I guess real quick before you answer that, the one thing I thought would be cool, something to think about on this is the cheaper one. How are you going to do this? Because obviously we can't give financial advice or anything, but I also am a trader and I use trading profits to fund my investment account. But some things to think about, because I do sell calls against everything that I'm in. I sell puts to enter. I sell out of the money calls. So just for instance, have this in the back of your mind. Do you want, first of all, can you afford 100 shares of Nvidia? And if you can't afford 100 shares of Nvidia, but you can afford 100 shares of AMD, would it be beneficial with your skill level, with your goals, with your ability to view the things, options charts? Would it be beneficial to buy 100 shares of AMD or sell puts against AMD? Maybe use those profits, because I sell weekly options. Use that to buy Nvidia. So kick it off, Mike. What are you thinking?
Yeah, just throw it out there, out there. I like that. So to answer one of the questions, no, I cannot afford 100 shares of Nvidia. I'll get there at some point, especially if they split. But to what you were saying is, I have been doing the same thing. So the stuff that I can afford, I make sure that I get 100 shares of, and I make sure that I am selling calls against those. And then when I do have the cash available, I am selling puts to accumulate more shares.
Nice. I did that for years. I mean, years on Ford, actually. It was a easy, because it would just go flat. It would also, Ford checks so many boxes. If you've been following my channel for any amount of time, it's a dividend ticker. It doesn't move that much. The options are so liquid. So it was just so easy to sell puts when I wanted more, sell calls, and I would use those profits to buy more Ford shares. It would just kind of snowball.
Right.
Sadly, it's going away. It's going away with my dividend account because I am focused on AI. I'm going in on AI, and I'm going to be really right, or worst case scenario, if I'm really wrong, we have a whole bunch of tickers that I think are probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
I think it's a win-win.
And you know what? And I'm guessing that you are not going to be emotional about selling your Ford shares. And if we did happen to be wrong, you could always buy back in, because Ford doesn't move that much.
Yeah, it'll be within a deviation of where it's at now.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, as far as emotions go, it's going to be like sending a kid off to college, I imagine, because I've had it for so long.
Yeah.
The dividend account, I've always wanted to beef up my dividend account. But these other YouTubers, they make it sound so cool. Residual income. They say all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, it sounds cool, but it pays about, the dividends. They pay about 4%. I never really built mine up to anything crazy. So it's just, right now I'm thinking capital efficiency. What do I want my money in? What's going to grow the best? How can I cast this AI net? So that's where I'm at.
So talking about dividends for a second, I used to be under the same, I would say, influence, thinking that dividends were a cool thing, and that if you had enough dividends or enough dividend stocks or and capital invested in those stocks, you could make a pretty decent income, which you can.
Yeah.
However, I have learned that running the wheel strategy gets you more premium, a higher percentage for the capital that you have. So and recently I've come to the conclusion, why bother with the dividend stocks when I'd rather have a growth company that I can make premium income on every week.
Yeah, in growth, find me a year that growth doesn't beat dividends anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're now, don't get me wrong. So this is going to be kind of a generic video anyway, because there's a time and place for it. Because if you're in SPY, let's just keep it generic. It's going to grow, but you don't necessarily get that income. And some people don't. They don't have drip turned on, so they're not
Hmm.
buying more shares. They're using that income. So
Right.
think about your individual spots. But almost just to double down on everything you just said, like on Ford, it does pay a dividend. And I got the dividend, but I also got weekly income off of it.
Hmm.
And yeah, still made, you know, way more. And I've publicly challenged, I mean, I've said this a lot on my YouTube channel because, no one's ever not accused me of being cocky. I've said I'll challenge any investor and I'll beat them using their own tickers. Like, and I'll pay 50% taxes.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of ways to beat it, and the selling options. If I I don't want to, I've had so many people call that a game changer, and it is mind blowing at how many people don't know how to do it. And man, it just wraps around to why the rich get richer, why people that know that just make more money, and why people that don't, well, they take the Dave Ramsey method. You know,
Yeah.
uh, cool. I would rather just know this and go to Starbucks than you know save the $4 or $6, whatever it is, and then just hopefully one day the dollar quits going down and I
Yeah.
make money.
Yeah. And I've been in our group, I've been showing people how to use the wheel strategy and do this.
Mhm,
Um, and you know, when you have a small account, it doesn't look like you're doing a whole lot at the beginning,
mhm,
but it's the snowball effect, right? It
right.
continues to grow, year over year. It's going to grow slow at first,
Mhm.
then year 3, 4, but you're doing pretty damn well.
Yeah, and that's why I started the growth account. So on our Patreon, that's the whole purpose I started the growth account, because there's this thing out there, and we're gonna get into tickers right after this. I've almost derailed it
Yeah.
by going going
Sorry.
off into,
Sorry.
into lessons. But there's this thing: if you have a small account, you just YOLO it, and you get this little boost, and then you start, become a magical better investor and trader. But really, all you do is you go to the slot machine, pull that lever, and you're hoping for a jackpot. And I've never once seen somebody hit that jackpot and not pull that lever again.
Yeah.
Like they're always like, I bet I could do it twice.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
then there goes your everything you just worked for.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
yeah. So taking it slow, I can't encourage, man. That snowball. If you guys can just picture a snowball, yeah. Starting with, so I started the growth account with zero and put $150 in. That's a snowflake. That's literally nothing. And but I will, again. I'll make more than, not year one. But it'll only be a couple years before I'm making what the average person makes at their salaried job.
Sure.
So it is important to. I think it's important. Let's get into tickers now, but it's important to keep your eye on the prize and understand that grind in the beginning. It seems like you're trying to like you're trying to move a mountain. You're just trying to, like do something ridiculous, but it,
Yep.
it does, man. When it picks up, you're like, oh, and it clicks. You're like, this is why I was doing that.
Yep.
This is great.
Exactly.
What's your top one? Let's
All
jump
right.
in.
So no particular order, and I
Mhm.
don't know if this is going to overlap with yours, but the first one is going to be Google.
Okay, I'm gonna write these down so we can stay on track. It is one of mine. My top five again: Meta, Microsoft, Tesla, Apple, Google. At the
Okay.
time of recording this, Google has sold off as well. So as far as importance goes, uh, man, how do I word this? You said no particular order. My top five, I would almost put it in like 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, because I just want that net out there.
Yeah.
Um, But in order of importance, yeah, Google, and I'll jump ahead to Tesla because of that sell off that they've experienced. I'm not buying them because Google can't draw a white person. I'm not buying Tesla for its I can make cars. I think that's the current, as we're recording, it's the reasons why they're kind of getting beat down, just
Yep.
getting led with that narrative. But that sell off makes it very tempting. Uh, so what are you how you doing this one? You selling puts, out flat out buying it? What are you why do you like this one in general? Give me the TLDR.
So so Google in general, I mean,
Mhm.
they own DeepMind, they own a couple of healthcare companies. They, their traditional, ad revenue.
Mhm.
I think that's going to be minuscule compared to their AI stuff in the future. I think DeepMind and their healthcare stuff, which is 100% focused on life longevity,
Mhm.
are the two areas that we have, you and I have talked about being total disruptors. So if you
Yeah.
can extend someone's life and you can have an AI company, I mean, that's like a perfect combination.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought about this. If you're in some backhand deals and you want to control all the sheep, right? Like people love to say, like, you're just a sheep. People love to say they're lions. Don't follow the sheep. But if you're in the business of hoarding sheep and moving them around, how cool would it be to make them live longer? There it is. That's all the reason you need.
Yeah.
But in fact, I said this in the group the other day, with AI picking up, because people are like, how are people going to monetize AI? And it's been such a very big question. I gotta say, I personally think it's in Google's. I want to hear your thoughts on this. It's in Google's best interest to pump all the AI it can into its creators, people like YouTubers and everything. Because as far as ad revenue goes, sure, get to sell a lot of ad spaces, and they get better. Man, these ads can tell you if you should be married to that person or not. They know more about you than you do. So
Yeah.
placing those ads become very, very efficient. But you saw Sora. Now all of a sudden, you don't need a drone, a camera crew. You don't need to know about color correction.
Right.
Uh, it's going to be the cool creators are not going to be limited to their can I afford a microphone or some gear, but what's inside my head and can I just type that out?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I do think YouTube is going to explode in the
mhm,
next couple of years from creators being able to produce full blown movies in
mhm.
HD with characters that just dreamed up and typed out, and it's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty pumped for that
Yeah.
because, yeah, right now it is limited to who can draw the best thumbnail, who can outsource that because that's like you and I are talking about. That's a full blown art in itself,
Hmm.
uh, and so now the only thing limiting you from starting this is going to be just what ideas do you have in your head, because who cares? Like, let's say I'm physically able to type out that prompt. Why do I even need to do that when I got this cool person I've been randomly watching, has the craziest stuff in his head, makes the
Yeah.
coolest episodes. Now I'm just on board, and I gotta either pay for YouTube ad premium or YouTube premium so there's no ads, or B, I just gotta watch some ads. I think the only reason I brought this up because you said like ad revenue is going to be so minuscule. 100% agree. When it kicks off, it's going to pale in comparison to the health stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but I think this is going to start showing up the second they start pumping out AI to the creators,
Hmm.
without even having to charge for it. That's what's going to start showing up in earnings. Uh, and that's why, again, that's just probably the long-winded way of saying, like, put Google up on the list,
Yep.
as far as like where it ranks in the totem pole. uh, that bumps up a few points for me,
Yeah,
on that one.
and obviously they've got some long term planning, right? I mean,
Mhm.
otherwise they wouldn't have bought DeepMind. I mean, they knew ad revenue was going to, I don't want to say fizzle out, but
Mhm.
it's going to be limited at some point
Yeah,
where the AI and the healthcare that they're invested in, they did this years ago.
yeah.
So like, they knew this was coming. They've invested heavily in it, and now the fruit is going to be, starting to come out.
Okay, I just thought about this as we rank each one. Um, Google actually is going to fit into both. So it's a great one to introduce this rule, or we've talked about the transition period and then like the after. So let's start adding, does it benefit in the transition period or the after? Because Google is going to be what I think the transition period, the YouTube, the creators are going to get to go nuts. And that will be like a flash in the pan because
Mhm.
it's going to be like a cool app that comes out tomorrow. It's awesome, but apps probably are going away. And at that point, if you're just an app creator, cool story. You really led the charge for 15 minutes before before the next big thing came out. Now operating systems don't even use apps, and we'll call that the after.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be the interim and the long term.
Okay. All right. Well, there's no debate there. What's the next one?
Well, you said Tesla,
Mhm.
and it's on my list too. But everyone
Okay.
talks about Tesla, so I'm not sure if we need to go too in depth in that. Other than they're creating robots.
Okay. Let's just say, at least at least humor me and say, why do you care about Tesla?
Yeah, I got two main reasons, or actually
Mhm.
three. The full self driving, if they can ever get that together, which I think they will.
Yeah.
Um, they've got the Optimus robot, which
hmm
will be coming out at the end of 2025 or sometime in 2025.
He's actually bumped it. He wants to have them all in his factory by the end of 24, making cars. Like,
I would, I think that's a great goal, but knowing Elon,
mhm.
he's late with everything.
He is, but I just can't discount the updates we've seen so far. Every
I
30
know.
days, it's just doing something different. Like, that's I
Yeah.
don't know if I want to discount that one.
And the third thing, and the one thing that I'm not even looking at, which you and I agree on this, we agree on this as well, is the cars. I can
Mhm,
care less about the cars,
mhm.
but I do like the charging network. So the charging
Yeah,
network, full self driving, and the Optimus robot. Those are the three things I like Tesla for.
yeah. See, mine are gonna have to be the robotics, and again, this is why I went nuts talking about Tesla the other day. This is like I'm telling people to not financial advice, but as far as urgency goes, grabbing Tesla now is the same as grabbing Meta at 90. That's the kind of urgency I'm coming with because I just once Figure One announced that robot, it clicked. There's a robotics race that no one's talking about.
Hmm.
And back to my original reason for buying Tesla in like 2017 was the energy race.
Yeah.
I do think there's going to be an energy race, and
Yep.
now I've been wrong on my timelines because I thought we were kind of going to kick it off sooner. Um, for whatever reason, we didn't. Whatever. I've been wrong there. It's been a good wrong because I've made a whole lot of money on Tesla. But I think with now Tesla being in solar, I've seen some very interesting things when it comes to nuclear power, and I am curious now. Does nuclear power kind of fizzle solar away? But either way, for now, until we cross that bridge, I think the energy race could be a decent one that Tesla will partake in.
Yeah. So along with their solar roof that Tesla put out is,
Mhm.
I don't want to say it's a failure, but it's not been as a robust revenue generator for them as people had thought, right?
Right.
However, their power wall is basically on back order.
Yeah. Forever.
Like that thing that I do think every house at some point will have a power wall.
Yeah.
Um because just being able to run your house and solar, eh, basically getting your, once you have the whole system installed, you're getting your
Mhm.
energy for free. Whether there's nuclear power, which will power industrial and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think every house, um, you know, personal consumers of energy will all be done locally at their house, and they'll just store it and basically free energy for them. That will be a thing.
Yeah. See, I'm a huge proponent of that, and I'm not going to mention it just yet because I'm kind of curious if it's on your top 10 list. But I do have solar, so like people don't talk about how much it costs to charge your car, and all. I'm like, well, mine's free because the sun showed up today. Like so I don't know if I wish Tesla. I really wish Tesla would have put some tech into solar panels. The solar roof is cool, but honestly, for me, it's like a new construction thing. Like, there's no way I'm going to take a 30-year roof off to replace it, 5 years in, to replace it with a solar roof when I can just add the panels.
Right.
I have the panels. Maybe it's a looks thing. I'm I'm mildly retarded. I care more about functionality than I do how things look.
Yeah.
Like I would wrap my house in literal tinfoil if you told me there was an actual reason why it could do something. Uh,
Functional reform.
yeah, that's how I am. So toss the panels on top. There's been so much technology, like there's been so much what upgrades that's been put into panels now are much better than they used to be. So I don't know why we didn't just work on the giant rectangles and go for it. Because if I think what I would agree with what you just said, if there was just a mass adoption of the roof, it would be different. But you would have to give me a reason I need to replace my roof right now with
Right.
that. And it would be like right now releasing $150,000 Optimus robot that all it does is walk around your house.
Yeah.
Like rich people would show that off, maybe attach their Ring camera to it,
Right.
but there's just there's no buyers for it.
Yep.
All right, what was your next one?
So we talked about Alphabet, Tesla,
Mhm,
and we kind of lead into the energy. While this is not an AI stock, I've
mhm.
got Enphase for the energy in my top 10.
That was actually the one I said I didn't want to mention until you brought it up. uh, before you get too big into Enphase, there's a couple ways to go about this. So I'm going to ask you this because there's Enphase, which is the direct stock. I have
Mhm.
solar edge panels on my roof, so I'm kind of biased to these two particular tickers. But then there's the solar ETF TAN, which Enphase is the number one holdings. And people that have been watching my channel probably made a whole bunch of money on TAN because I was
Mhm.
like, guys, I like this, I'm buying it. And in 2021, it blew up so much that people were like congratulating me and telling me how awesome I was. I was like, listen, I'm glad I'm right. Okay. I'm not this right. So we
Yeah.
ended up selling TAN at the peak. I was like, this is a momentum ticker now. This is not why I originally bought it. Killed
Yep.
it on TAN.
Yep.
So I'm curious. What's your overall thoughts on Enphase, Solar Edge, and TAN?
Um, so, Solar Edge. So I actually looked at TAN a while
Mhm.
back,
Yeah.
and I actually did a little research on the tickers in there, and that's how I ended up picking Enphase.
Hmm.
Because I did want to pick. I had thought about just holding TAN for a while,
Hmm.
but I do like I've kind of migrated away from the ETFs.
ETF phase. Hmm.
Yeah, I like owning the individual stocks, right? I mean, because
Yeah.
there's tons of ETFs that own Tesla, there's tons of ETFs that own Google,
Yeah.
but I'd rather just own those two. It's the
I
same thing with Enphase.
Yeah, I can understand that because my investment account, I joke, I say it's basically QQQ, but I bought
Hmm.
all the cool stuff, the stuff that
Right,
actually is holding the
right.
market up, not the other 95 tickers I don't care about.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, that's what I was going for. That's basically the answer. If you had one, not that there was a right and wrong, but is
yeah.
that what it was?
And
Uh,
and ironically, these are the three that I've been picking up the last few weeks because they have been kind of beat down a little bit.
mhm.
And Phase specifically because of the interest rates.
Yeah, very interest rate
Um,
sensitive.
and if anybody thinks that they're not going to go down at some point, which will cause their business to grow again,
Mm,
is crazy. So right now is the perfect time to be buying Enphase, in my opinion.
yeah, I'm right there with you. I think I own some Enphase right now. I have to check. I sold the 110s, and I think it sold off.
I think it's down like
Yeah,
107 or something like
yeah.
that.
Let's say I own it now. So I'll get that alert. So I sold the. What's funny is I sold the 110s and I used that premium to buy Tesla shares.
There you go.
So that was actually a play. If you're in the group, that was actually a play. I think quite a few people. So I don't post call outs, but I tell you what I'm doing, and I think they agreed with the analysis and they did the same thing.
Yep.
Uh, so yeah, so I own Enphase now, and then I have some extra. I don't know if I want to call them free shares of Tesla, but I took that free internet money and I bought shares of Tesla. So
Doing the exact same thing. And
mhm,
I've been selling calls against my Enphase shares
mhm.
and been buying Tesla and Google with them every week religiously.
Nice. I have an Enphase chart pulled up right now. Actually, let's just bring this up super fast. We can talk about some technicals with this.
Sure.
So Enphase before it had dropped off, and I was like, man. So at this red, I can really zoom in here. This is a weekly zone, the purple. But as it dropped off right here, I was like, man, I'm gonna sell some 110. So they're out of the money, and we're at the bottom of this zone. So the premium was nice.
Hmm.
Obviously on red days, puts go way up. So I had waited for the move and then sold it. Now would I have bought Enphase at 110? Sure. So when you're selling puts, it has to be something you really want to buy. And again, anything I sell puts on this year, and I've said this religiously, if I'm selling puts on it, that is an engagement. I will
Hmm.
be in these shares until 2025 ish, bare minimum, like bar none. Like I am ready for any kind of storm this is gonna throw at me, and I'm
Yep.
well aware of what can happen. People always say like, how much further can it go down? Guys, let me answer that question every time because the answer with 100% certainty is always right here on the right side of your chart. This can go down about $107.76 more. That's
It
about how
can.
much more it can go down.
It can.
Uh, yeah. So whether people have to say like, no, I can only go down this, like, no, trust me, it can.
Yep.
We hope it doesn't. But so that's why I sold that. I had enough premium. It bought three Tesla shares.
Yep.
So bing bang boom. What I'll probably end up doing now is I bet the 120s for next week. I want to be above a zone. But I might end up selling some 119s, 120s. And instead of going, if next Friday is just nothing, I might end up going 2 weeks out and go an extra dollar more. Um, you know, maybe you don't know, but that's why. I'll collect a couple extra more. If anybody knows options, they understand what I just said. If you don't
I think.
understand options, learn it.
Yeah, and join a group. I can teach you, or Don can teach you.
Yeah, I have a full
I think.
blown course right now.
Yeah, I think I did sell the 119s Friday morning.
Okay.
Um, so I'm sitting pretty good.
Yeah, that's on the 110s Thursday. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it was
Okay.
110s
Yeah.
because they were out of the money. I wouldn't have done that on Friday.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so we got Google, Tesla, Enphase. What do you think your fourth one is?
Okay. This one's actually on probably my number two is
Okay.
Microsoft.
Why you like
Microsoft is so invested in OpenAI.
it? Mm-hmm.
Um, their Azure platform, which is they've started to gear towards hosting AI applications for other organizations. I think
Mm.
those two things are setting themselves up again, like Google setting themselves up for the future.
Yeah, they're just a giant.
They're a megalith for sure.
Yeah. The one thing I liked about these, and as far as AI goes, because people again would ask me, "How are you going to monetize AI?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't at this point. I kind of don't care because someone's going to figure it out. I'm sure someone's getting paid a whole bunch of money to figure that out. But in you and I had talked about this, saying specifically this, everybody already has some form of Microsoft, Google, or Apple. The iPhone, the Microsoft at work, Google with their Android phone, like they already have that ecosystem out there. So whenever they do figure it out, there's no door knocking in a sales pitch, right?
Yeah.
There is nothing. It's already in your face. It's just a matter of how do you want to buy this.
So
Uh,
Microsoft has already monetized OpenAI by creating Copilot.
okay. Oh, so
And
Copilot costs money.
oh yeah, Copilot I think is $30 a user a month.
I thought they say
Um,
$30 a year. I was like, wow.
no,
What are
30
they gonna do
bucks
with all that money?
$30 a month per user.
Okay.
Um, and it's selling. I mean,
What can you do with it? I haven't used Copilot yet.
so I mean, it'll create PowerPoint presentations. It'll review a Teams meeting and give you the summary of it. It
Okay.
will uh, respond to emails automatically. Like it does a lot. And one of
Oh,
the
I need
guys,
that.
in full disclosure, I work in IT,
Mhm.
and my team who use Copilot, they love it. They would not be able to give it up at this point.
Really? Okay, so
Yeah,
they're hook, line, and sinker. The meat hooks
they're
are
all
in.
in. They're
Okay.
in.
I've heard some Microsoft employees say some scary things. Um, scary things for the people that are not in Microsoft. I'll put it that way. So, um, yeah, I like it. This is again one of mine. What's funny is, I guess not last year, but 2022, I had said, because I have, as a trader, I have watched Microsoft just go up, and I'll piddle around with it, but it was 2022. I was like, why am I not in this? Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
After the sell off, so I just started buying a bunch of it, and I'm not upset. Like, it really took. I don't know if coincidence or not. It would just, I say it a lot. You buy the stuff that goes from the lower left to the top right. Like,
Right.
just that's what I want my money to do. Why not invest in that? And then the whole AI thing really started to go for it. So a coincidence or not, however anyone wants to, I don't know if I could argue it, but man, I've killed it on Microsoft, and it's not going anywhere. I'll put
Yeah.
it that way.
And something I would say, if someone thinks that these are expensive now, they they might be.
Mhm.
However, this is still nothing compared to what they're going to be.
Yeah.
At least what we think.
Mhm. Something
So
I was, 'cause my sisters, they're like, they can't afford to invest. And like, I try to have this conversation all the time, and I say my sisters, like, I have this with my family, friends, everybody. It's not can you afford it, but can you afford not to?
right.
And I don't know if that sounds like gimmicky or a sales pitch, but we're talking about job losses. The conversation of universal basic income is coming up.
Hmm.
Like, you're getting into that phase. Can you afford to sit this last hurrah out? Like, wouldn't you want your best foot forward? Like, and I don't know if I don't want to be fear mongering or anything like that. Again, if I'm really wrong, well, then I have Google, Tesla, Enphase, Microsoft tickers that are probably still going to be here. Like, my money didn't disappear.
Right.
Please
Right.
don't.
Yeah. Yeah. And everything that I'm calling out
Mhm.
is going to be around for a while, regardless of whether they nail AI or not.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. So people love to say Nvidia. I don't know if Nvidia's on the list. People love to say that's an expensive one, and that's a tough one to combat as a trader. Yeah, it's pushed up a lot. As an investment, there's a reason why it is. I made a video about how I was selling my Nvidia, and I'd started selling the 850 calls on it. That lasted about 2 weeks before even myself. I was like, yeah, I sold the 850 calls for a couple weeks. One during earnings week, it was fine. I made $500 per contract.
Yeah.
And then I did it again the next week, and then I really thought about it, and I was like, man, if this keeps going, I'm gonna really regret this. As a trader, it did look expensive, but when
Yeah.
I actually sat down, pen to paper, and looked at it as an investment, what if we are just getting warmed up? My
We
dad used to tell me Tesla was too expensive at $300 a share. That was before any splits or anything. And I was like, no, you need to be in this thing. And then
Yeah.
it went to thousands a share.
Yeah. Yeah. So Nvidia is my number 4.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
go ahead and put that out there. Um, if you saw the growth over 2023 from 2022, you understand why the valuation is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's going to slow down.
Yeah.
Similar to Microsoft, they are building out their data centers,
Mm-hmm.
hosting their chipsets to be able to outsource to other people.
Mm-hmm.
That I think is going to be the biggest moneymaker, not the chips, actually. I think the chips are there and they're going to continue to make money on them. But I think hosting the data centers is where their future money is going to come in.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's what when I was looking into, I found out Nvidia is not just the selling the shovels during the gold mine, the
No.
gold rush. No, they are partnering people. Oh, is this what you want to do? This is how you would use our chips. Also, call this guy. He's in my contacts list. That's what he does. Like, they're partnering people with Google, Microsoft. Like, their best fit. They're playing matchmaker
Yeah.
for startups and just company to company stuff. And that's what blew my mind. I was like, oh, so this isn't just a one trick pony.
Yeah.
Uh, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. They're a hardware company, but they're slowly transitioning away from a hardware company into a business management / AI. Like they're doing their own AI development. Like
Yeah.
they're becoming big.
They're doing what Blockbuster should have done. And so I don't say that. I know that might sound funny, but if you think about it, Blockbuster said the Netflix isn't going to do. Nobody's going to want streaming. They never adapted. They never made any changes. They never saw. Well, they saw what's coming, but they just disregarded. Like, nah, nothing.
Yeah,
Nvidia kind of sees what's coming, and they're preparing and they're making moves. So they're going to adapt with the market. They know once you have the processing power,
right.
it's there. Like now what? And if you're not prepared for that, then you're over with. And Nvidia's been in my investment account for some time, strictly because of their management team. I actually love their management team.
Yeah,
It was second to Tesla with Elon in the beginning. They make some nice. They make power moves. They I've seen their moves play out more often than not. So
sure.
all about this. I do like Nvidia.
Okay,
Um,
good.
I brought this up in the beginning. Is AMD on your list?
It is not.
Is not okay. It's on my list.
Okay.
Uh, and I think it actually irks me. People are like, oh, this stock's going to play catch up. Like it's just next in line. I don't care for that. But what I'm going to say sounds a whole lot like that, because AMD has made some statements of Nvidia's not going to be the only one. TLDR. We're coming in for it. We're going to create that power. Speaking of just processing power, you've watched people say, CEOs say, we need Nvidia's chips to their verbiage change to we need this much processing power
Hmm.
regardless of whose name is on there. We just want it reputable. We want it to work. That's all. We don't care about the badge. And I do think so. AMD is on the list and my list personally. And I got a shout out to Kabir in the group because he calls it the poverty Nvidia. So the people who can't afford Nvidia, they buy AMD. And I gotta say, all jokes aside, if that's what you can afford, I gotta say you need, without giving financial advice, AMD or Nvidia probably needs to be in that
it's,
in
it's in
that
my
in the,
it's in my top 15. It just didn't make my top 10.
okay.
And,
Uh,
and, and simply because Nvidia is in my top 10.
yeah, and so I guess I would leave it here with this. As far as asset allocation, where's your money? Is your money getting put to work? As long as one of these is in there, because if chips have a bad day, both Nvidia and AMD are going to eat it. So people have say you got to diversify, and if you have all your money in AMD, Nvidia, and Intel, all you're really in is just chips.
Hmm.
So it's not really diversified. So yeah, I guess I said what I said. I don't need to repeat it. One of them I think needs to just be in there. What's your next one?
All right, so we got Enphase, Alphabet, Microsoft, Nvidia, Tesla.
Mhm.
Next one would be Apple,
Okay.
the old faithful, and not because of what it's doing right now, but because of
Mhm.
what we think it's going to do with Siri and
Yeah.
AI, and potentially healthcare. They've been trying to break into the healthcare market slowly, but I do
Yeah.
think that's going to ramp up.
Well, their Apple Watch is the only thing deemed a medical device.
Yeah,
Their latest. I feel like hesitant to even say that, but that's how good their sensors got. Their
yeah,
latest one. Uh, so yeah, and there's not much to break down on Apple. It was if they've been following me for any amount of time, I sold 75% of my Apple shares at 175. I was like, I'm kind of just done.
yeah.
But I will say it recently just jumped back up on the list. I started buying it again because it's very eerie how much AI talk has been out there and what's going on. And you have a company this big. Like, are you sure you're sitting this thing out? And then we start hearing leaks about a Siri 2.0. And then as soon as we hear that, I'm buying. I was like, okay, so this is a sleeping giant. They're just keeping it under wraps. I do think they come out with a big bang. It's almost like they're gonna just enter the race and already be in first, second, or third. They just didn't go off with the bang like everybody else.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I
but
agree. And they dismantled their
their
Apple
car division,
Car.
yeah. Mhm.
So they dismantled their Apple Car division, but they didn't let people go. They moved them over to their AI area.
Yeah. And
So
that just confirmed everything because I started buying Apple when I started hearing leaks of Siri 2.0.
yeah,
And just that following week is when we heard that. And I was like, okay, we're good.
yeah,
I need to be back in this thing.
yeah.
And for the dividend people out there, Apple pays a dividend.
It
So does
always pays
Nvidia.
They're tiny, but they do pay a dividend.
Hey, listen, residual income, okay?
True.
For your $4 million out there, you can have Chipotle every quarter. One bowl, no guacamole or anything like that, but you can at least get some rice and a couple of things of chicken.
Yeah, there you
go. Okay. What's your next one? So far,
go.
we're on board, all the same ones.
I was going to hold this off to the last, but I knew it would drive you crazy if I did. So I'm just going to go ahead and say throw Meta out there.
Okay. Does anybody need my explanation on Meta, or I'll let you take the reins on this one because I've talked Meta just ridiculously on this channel.
Yeah, I mean, Meta is one of I wouldn't call it like my top 5.
That's because you're poor.
But they have a pile of cash and they have been developing a lot of AI stuff. And I think they're going to be able to utilize that some way because they do have a giant market.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I don't have anything really specific about what they're doing, other than they really have a captive audience and a lot of cash, and they're developing something to take advantage of that. So that's kind of where I'm at.
They're going to know more about your company than Palantir does once you fully invite them in.
Yeah.
Just think of so this is why I like it, and I want people to really think about this. Think about everything that gets posted on Meta, Facebook, Instagram, everything. It's everyone's emotions. They can't wait to share the good and bad times. So they have everyone's personal data. They have the human aspect, I think, down. The second an AGI becomes a thing, where is it going to go to learn about humans? It's going to go straight to the social media, and Meta just owns social media. Meta is just social media.
Sure.
It's going to go to YouTube, but YouTube sucks. I mean, it's a search engine. We got people talking about how-tos. We're on here. As far as getting down to the nitty-gritty of how just human emotions are, lies, manipulation, everything, all on social media, they are going to unlock something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I think it's going to be absolutely crazy. And I don't think Zuckerberg stopped. He got the absolute brakes beat off when he was like, "Oh, we're going to do the metaverse." I think he was ahead of his time.
A little bit.
So I think that's there, and I'm glad they're doing the mixed reality. I think full blown jumping into the next world, people just weren't ready for that. Mixed reality. Look at your TV and another one. Gonna change things.
Yeah, the augmented reality space is actually really, really cool. Being able to like you've seen the demos where the guy's working on a car, and the augmented reality tells him, okay, here's where the screw is to undo this, and it's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, he's got his. So what he has up is to paint this picture for everybody else. He's working on like a Ford Explorer or something. Hood up. He's got his goggles on. He can still see the engine of his car. He has a YouTube video of how to change this part. He has the forums up. So he has 2 windows up. So he has his engine, the how-to, and the forums of how to do all this.
Yeah.
He's not even a mechanic, but he has probably some of the best mechanic. I mean, there's arguments to be made where you get your sources from, but think of what that's going to turn into.
Yeah,
like that's going to be nuts. I think Meta has that on the back burner. I think they're slowly working on it. They just didn't. They don't have it in your face. So yeah, all AI is going to do is help them make it that much faster.
Right.
And they're going to be. It's going to be ridiculous. No brakes on that train. It is going off the rails in a good way. It sounds very disturbing, but off the rails in a good way.
Yeah. And the same with Apple. They've got their goggles, right? So, or not goggles, they're glasses or whatever they're called. And it's going to be the same concept, right? It's just more augmented reality. And that'll be the next step. So.
Yeah. I'm ready for Ready Player One because you can identify as whatever you want. You can make your avatar whatever you want. There's no physical changes being made. If you want to be a pink octopus that day, sweet. Like that's you. You can have 16 arms. I don't even care. It's going to be amazing. And people are going to be able to have that just that ability. What word am I looking for? Like that. I want to call it an escape, but they're gonna be able to show what do people do when people dress gothic and all that. They're trying to show off. They're
showing off their personality. They're showing off their
gosh, there's a word I'm looking for. They're express themselves.
Yeah,
You'll be able to express yourself in that like Ready Player One style, and I think it'll give people that release, and I think people will probably just mellow out. Like I
yeah,
think you'll get to know people a little bit better as well. Like, hey, why is that guy a pink octopus today? He's like, "Man, I just like having 16 arms. Like, all right, cool. Let's go to this giant world over here, and then everybody just moves on. I think it'll be huge.
yeah.
But
It'll be good.
I try not to bore people talking too much about it because I feel like I'll get like the Zuck effect just ahead of its time. All right. I think we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
We
6. We're 7 tickers in.
got three more. Next one would
Yeah.
be Amazon,
Okay.
and I like Amazon because they are invested in a lot of different companies as well. Like they
Mhm.
have invested in I forget the robotics company that they're invested in, but basically
Figure
they're
one.
trying to replace. Huh?
You're talking about the figure one
Oh, it's
robot?
Figure One. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah. I mean, can you imagine how efficient and how much money they're going to make when they replace all their 100,000 people?
Yeah. There's going to be
Um,
4 people that run Amazon, and that's
right,
because they just want to have someone to talk to.
right.
Other than that, it'd be one person.
I
Yeah.
mean, their EPS is going to just go straight through the roof.
Yeah, and that's why people are like, "Oh, we need to stop this." I'm like, "Man, I don't think you know how much money this is gonna bring in. You're not just gonna
Right.
stop stopping crap." Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's that that horse is out of the barn. Like,
Yeah, they're saying, "Oh, it's only gonna replace the jobs that people get hurt on and all that." I'm like, no, it's not." That's how they're just telling you
no,
that they're just gonna break it off easy in you. That's all.
I mean they already built their whole EV fleet. Eventually that'll
Mhm.
be totally autonomous. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just they're just a gigantic company that's not stoppable at this point.
Yeah, yeah, and in fact, I love buying Amazon. So it's Amazon, Apple, Meta, and Google. Anytime, so you know that they have their ends with their politicians, and you always know when they're having a feud or like when a politician just wants it cheaper because all of a sudden there's like a monopoly case being brought to court and it gets dropped every time. but you but
Yeah,
you watch the stock drop when that happens. Everybody freaks out. Like this is
yeah,
the best buying opportunity. I have bought, and I mean with 100%. I have bought every one of those cases. Anytime
sure,
there's a monopoly case, I don't even need to check the price. I will pull up my phone and market buy shares. It
right,
doesn't even matter.
right, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Give it to me all day. Yeah, because people talk about Amazon with delivery drones. What the whole van could just drive to you, and drop that thing off with a either conveyor belt or still beats the guy throwing it on your porch or a dog attacking you. Like it is gonna be. Imagine there's a Taco Bell right now, and I think a McDonald's, no employees.
In
Okay,
California, yeah.
in Colorado,
Oh,
and now,
okay,
yeah, now imagine Amazon doing that
right,
from the factory to your doorstep, 0 employees. Oh yeah, this is gonna be amazing. As far as your earnings per share, like what you
yeah,
mentioned,
yeah.
gonna be nuts.
It's good. Close. It'll be their net income will be close to like 80% or something like that. It'll be
Yeah,
ridiculous.
they're gonna. This is what someone's gonna say. Like, why don't they take some of that money and pay for people? Because people live in fantasy land. I think companies are gonna do that, but but they probably could with how much money they're gonna make. They could
Yeah,
probably afford to lay off all their employees and just give them their money. Just no raises, but I'm gonna just cap you at this and give you that because with inflation and all that, that would just get cheaper and cheaper every year. It would still be a better profitable company.
yeah. They could pay people. You know what? They could. I don't, no need to go on.
It's not happening because we don't live in La La Land, and unfortunately, like maybe you just missed it. Rewind it and listen. They pay the politicians a lot of
Yeah,
money. Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Uh, okay, what's your next one?
All right. This one, of course, is I don't know. People either hate it or love it. Palantir.
If they
They
hate it, they're probably not on this channel.
they Palantir is a true AI stock,
Hmm.
and if you've seen what they're doing with the military, it's pretty damn phenomenal.
Yeah.
Um, they have been ramping up their commercial area really
Mhm.
fast. They're growing faster than Snowflake. Um, I think this is just a phenomenal future play.
Yeah. Uh, so I don't. This isn't pushback or anything. I have this in my speculative play. There is a reason Microsoft's $400, and Palantir's 20.
Hmm.
Um, so speculative, but I'm a 1,000% on board. But as far as allocation goes, it's considerably less than all my other ones. But I gotta say, I absolutely love this ticker because it is great to sell puts on. It's great to sell calls on. People that are following in the Patreon group that are following the growth account, they're in Patreon right now. It's the reason why we're up 40% on the year already,
Yep.
and that's because we were buying shares, selling calls against it. So we're making weekly income as the shares go up. So this is, while I've called it a speculative play, I think that's, I don't know if that has like a stigma where people think that's bad. This is one you're not going to have to spend a lot on to make a lot. So
Right.
your actual risk, if I'm going to go out and buy 100 shares of Nvidia versus 100 shares of Palantir, your dollar amount risk that you actually have out there in the market, your exposure risk, is considerably less with Palantir. So on cheaper tickers, I like it because you could spend less and make the same. I think people make the mistake, and that's the reason why I go into this rant. People think they're going to spend the same and make so much more,
Hmm.
but it's you can, but you're rolling the dice on speculative plays. It's not smart. Not that we're giving advice, but yeah, go ahead.
I'll just add something. It was in my mind speculative a couple of years ago,
Mm-hmm.
before they were profitable. They are profitable now.
Yeah.
I mean, their bottom line is actually profitable. So I think in my mind, a lot of the risk is gone. Even though
Mm-hmm.
I've liked them for a while, I do think a lot of that risk in the what I would typically call a speculation play
Mm-hmm.
is somewhat diminished at this point. But I mean,
Yeah.
but I do get the sentiment.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, it just hasn't left the speculative play part for me because
Sure,
it's still in that cheaper realm
sure,
until it starts moving like Ford at this price range, or it pushes up to and everyone's price target's different, pushes up to a comfortable valuation, grows
yeah,
into it. Um, like I want to say it's not a speculative play. I'm in it. I absolutely love this ticker.
yeah,
But yeah, it just hasn't because it's cheap. It gets moved a lot easier. So the percentage moves on this are kind of like, well, and right now Nvidia or or Tesla used to be. If you're thinking percentage wise, going from 20 to 22, 10% move. A lot of the tickers we listed off, they stick within a, whether they grind up or down, so be it. They're in a 4% kind of range,
yeah,
where Palantir can still have 10% days.
sure.
But it juices up those. This is an easy one to grow wealth with because it does move those contracts around. So even the out of the money stuff still makes money.
Yeah, and I will say uh, the big investment firms are starting to dump money into Palantir, which is also a good sign.
Yeah, the institutional holdings. I was
Yeah,
going to bring one of my next videos is and I was going to mention this on Meta, but I didn't want to jump ahead and get too ADD on this.
yeah,
But Meta, I don't get why people don't like it. Meta is mostly institutionally owned. Like,
yeah.
people love to call them smart money. Like, well, there you have it. but yeah, Palantir institutionally
Is
has gone up substantially.
Yeah, and it's steadily growing each
Hmm.
quarter. You can cite the data on this, and it's growing. So that also
Yeah.
gives you some confidence in it, right?
Yeah, and I do love that, and that's also why, and this will make sense to anybody that's been following the growth account. I don't have any calls sold on Palantir right now because
Mhm.
of that risk. Right, I was like, man, people are dumping into this. This could be, and again, just take this with a grain of salt. What if this is a $50 stock? I'm not. I don't want to let this thing go at $27 and watch it grow to 50, and that's what's going to
Right, right,
happen. Yeah,
right.
because if people don't understand, you talk about the float, right? Supply and demand. These institutions, they are not trading it.
Right.
There's some that do, but there's some that are investing. So they are going to have it for the next 5 to 10 years. So essentially, let's say there's 1 million shares available. We'll call it the float. We made that term up. So you have the float, but you have Zuckerberg, he just came in and bought $500,000 shares. Now, technically, there's a million share float, but Zuck's not selling it. That's not
Right.
for sale.
Right.
So essentially, it just now gets it brings it down to a 500 share float, and that's what can move these prices around, especially when they're in the beginning phases, like I think Palantir is.
Right.
That's what can move these prices around so much, and gives you and why I love to have this talk with you on this video, is because there's so much trade opportunity to make more on the money you already have out there. Um, it makes Palantir one of the best candidates out of everything we talked about. Palantir actually checks more boxes, I think, than all the other ones because of the potential growth, the how much you don't need to have to take advantage of that growth, and the options chain you can
Right.
partner with it. Um, it makes it one of again. I had to go on that disclaimer of the risk factor.
Yeah.
What word did I use? I already
Um,
forgot the word. What not what's it when it's risky in the beginning?
Speculative.
Speculative. There you go. I was looking for that word. Like, I had to throw out that disclaimer. Um,
I think we bring this. You and I just seem to forget about words while when we're chatting. I don't know what that is all about.
yeah. But I had to bring that up because of how much I knew I was just getting ready to say it with Palantir. It's hard
Yeah.
not to just vomit a bunch of words out. You're like, Palantir, like, you need to buy it, you need to sell it, you need to do all this, you need to take advantage of that growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have basically paid for my shares in Palantir by running the wheel strategy.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's it. Follow that growth account. We're
Yep.
gonna do the exact same thing there. We're taking
Exactly.
it, we're selling it against it, and then we're buying free shares.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so okay, that's
Last
number
one.
9, right? Last one.
Last one. All right. This is a security play for because I'm the IT nerd.
Mhm.
I had to go with CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike's
Okay.
my number one IT security play. It's having used them
Mhm.
uh, at at work.
Mhm.
I see what they are compared to everything else, and they just blow everything away. Um,
Okay.
and they're not stopping either. So that's my
Right.
last.
Okay.
That's my number 10.
I have it. I've sold. I bought it because earnings dumped and it dropped right to a zone. I was like, I'm gonna buy
Mm-hmm.
it. Like, and I love doing these during live streams. I'm like, watch this. Like that is where I do get a little bit cocky because I'm like, just watch it, and it bounces, and it just kept going up. So I just love to say like, should have listened, you know. Uh, but I haven't. I gotta say like, I haven't dove that deep into. Okay, so here's what I want to ask you on this one while I have you here. This is perfect. Cybersecurity is the reason why I've shied away from it allocation wise, because I actually do like CrowdStrike. There's some other ones. Is it Fortinet? There's Snow. There's a lot just in that space or close to it, with it in general. Um, but people are talking about like cybersecurity is you're gonna need it more because people are gonna be able to hack more. It's gonna be easier. Like those statements don't make sense to me because it's going to be like people fighting with muskets to people fighting with rifles. It's not going to be a rifle versus a musket scenario. Everything just goes up, so it scales up the same. So why is cybersecurity needed more later than it is now? Like there's the sword and the shield. So
So I mean, in the short term,
mhm,
you're gonna see bad actors using AI tools for bad things,
mhm,
and they'll be able to take advantage of people who are using legacy technology
okay,
versus the people who are using, like, say, a CrowdStrike, which is using AI to their advantage. They're
mhm,
going to be more protected than the ones who are still using, like I said, a legacy technology, which can be overcome by an AI hacker.
okay. Okay, so I guess that makes sense. So would that be more of? I said we are gonna say this on every ticker, and we failed. Would that be more of a transition stock or the later stock? Where does that see its boom?
Uh, transition,
Okay,
transition.
so and the transition is gonna take place over what we think, if we're right, years. So it's not gonna
R-
be this is gonna be good for the next month. In that good, we're a year or two minimum on any of these.
Right.
But I'm thinking, yeah,
Yeah. My timeline is at least 5 years for
okay.
because I'm more. I do the trading stuff, but I really am focused on the investing part of it,
Mhm.
and so my minimum time horizon is 5 years.
Yeah. And for it to be in my investment portfolio, it's why I can't stand investing YouTubers because I don't get it. Don't talk about being an investor and then you have content to make every day because nothing fundamentally changes day to day. Like it just doesn't happen. For it to be in my investment account, I'm gonna buy it. I'll see you in 5 years. Until Elon goes in and smokes an employee in the factory, like nothing actually fundamentally changes.
Yep.
Like I don't care what Elon posted on X. Good. How many cars still got made that day? Okay, and how many cars would have not been made had he not done that? Like nothing matters. Uh, so yeah, when it comes to investing, there's zones that I have. There's the trading aspect of the world, but I use that for entry and how to maximize investing. But it doesn't change the investment thesis. Like when people that's why I'm glad there's Don Fron Trading now, and then there's Don Fron Show, which we're on. Uh, People would confuse that. Like, hey, are you still in this? Like, has it been 5 years? Yeah, I'm still in this.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed yet. Are they still the company that I talked about? Yep. Yeah, they're still there.
Yeah, I will say I still do research
Mhm.
pretty consistently because I want to make sure that my my thesis hasn't changed.
Right, they're still on track.
Are they still on track? Are they still a
Yeah.
good company? Are they doing what they need to be doing?
Mhm.
And I check my boxes, and that's about it.
Yeah. But does it hit a zone? Does that check one of your boxes? Because as an investment, it really shouldn't. That comes into I'm going to sell some options on this. I'm going to do this. There, I'm going to take some because those are trading plays. That is where you start to blur the lines between trading. But the core investment, and I've said this a lot, and I haven't said on this stream by some miracle this far. Um, Owning these shares is like owning a rental property. I'm going to buy it and I'm going to collect some rent. It may be
Yeah,
vacant a couple months because I just don't agree with it. I don't agree with the tenant that time, which would be the options contract.
right.
Yeah, but how do you maximize your gains on a house just sitting there? If you're playing Monopoly, you got all these houses up. You're just going to not collect rent when someone lands on it?
That's
No,
right.
you're going to punch that family member in the face and you're going to take their money.
Okay.
That's it. We play a different style of Monopoly at my house. Yeah.
That's- Jesus.
We're a little
Um,
more aggressive. Okay,
yeah.
so let's recap because I don't disagree. I I don't know if anybody was expecting any kind of real pushback or anything. This wasn't supposed to be a debate or anything. Um, I own all of these, by the way. So as a viewer in the takeaway, it would just be, and this is something that everyone's going to have to come up with on their own, is where do each of these rank on that totem pole? How much do you, asset allocation wise, do you want to just go straight cut it like a pizza where everything's symmetrical? And this isn't for anything for us to answer. But how do you rank these? Because I think as far as where anybody would differ from me to you, from a viewer, is which one's their top one. Palantir might be number one, and they're probably going to, I would say if you were to whole account Palantir and buy one share of everything else, percentage wise, you probably would destroy us, depending on
Yeah.
how you wanted to attack it. Uh, but I gotta say, as a viewer, that's what I would want you to sit and think about. I love every one of these tickers, and Mike didn't tell me these tickers before, but we're on the same page as far as AI. I'm going in as far as AI, and I do think AI is going to help the energy world. They're still going to need that power. You
Yep.
saw Texas. There was a snowflake one day, and the grid went down. So you gotta AI is going to help the energy sector. It's going to need energy to run. So that's kind of my roundabout way for why Enphase and Solar Edge needs to be in the conversation.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I mean that's where I would leave it on this video. Is just I would take these tickers, put a good thought about how much you want to have into each one, and I think you have a solid portfolio. Granted, I will give this disclaimer: uh, it's all tech. Okay, tech has a bad day. Let me just give you the heads up now. Your portfolio is going to be red. Like
Yep.
so, but really, this is why also I don't like talking about investing, or why I haven't like talked about investing, because I've absolutely destroyed the other YouTubers, everyone talking about it, but I'm in mostly tech, and it's look at tech, look at Nvidia. I didn't buy. I mean, people are like, oh, I wish I would have bought Nvidia at 160. I've had it much cheaper than that. So like my portfolio has grown exponentially with this AI push, and I do think we are at that .com bubble phase or scenario. But if we're a bubble or if we're a balloon, we are a deflated, just latex rubber thing right off the shelf. We are 1996 in the .com phase.
Yeah.
Uh, I do think we're going to see probably, I don't know if it's even an exaggeration to say hundreds of more companies show up. They're going to fizzle out just as fast. They're going to be publicly traded. They're going to boom and they're going to collapse. They're going to look like Peloton. Everything we listed off here, I don't think is. I don't think they get dethroned.
No, if anything, they'll buy up some of those smaller ones for their
Mhm.
technology and then call it a day.
Yeah, I think these are the giants. These are the ones that are going to make the money moves.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in 1996, I'll worry about these tickers in the year 2000. And at that point, do I just aggressively start selling? I'm probably not even going to let go of them then. But if we were to get that style boom, I don't know. I would probably start if I really felt like there was a bubble. I would probably start selling at the money calls and still make more money than everybody else.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I would say, I'd say we're going to start seeing some shakeup
mhm,
and really know who the winners are. I would two to possibly 3 years, but probably closer to 2 years.
mhm.
We'll start to see who the real winners are and where we can maybe cut some and move it over into those, consolidate it a little bit more. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, I'd. As far as consolidation goes, exposure to tech is about 100%, but
Yeah,
uh, I'd say this is still pretty consolidated. There's way more AI tickers and robotic stuff you can buy out there.
sure.
But I think they're gonna. What would you call it? Are these the low hanging fruit? Because they're the easiest ones to call out.
These these are the big ones that I absolutely in
Very,
my
very
mind,
essentials.
huh?
The minimum essentials, like the bare minimum, like you need to have.
These are the ones. Yeah, these are the ones I think. I don't want to guarantee is such a strong word, but it's almost like a guarantee that these are going to do well.
Yeah,
And this
as much.
isn't. I still have some other stuff in there that really is speculative, like
Mhm.
the eVTOL stuff, like some of
Yeah.
the quantum computing stuff, which they're like 50 cents per share.
Mhm.
Um, not large, but
Mhm.
it's just those have some potential. But these top 10 that I have are the ones I have like my highest conviction in, and I'm pretty certain that they're going to do great.
Yeah. I'd be hard pressed. Uh, it would. I don't know if anybody's going to show up in the comments and convince me not to buy any one of these. Like, so let's say I don't. What is a trader going to show up and say Nvidia's too high? Look at the sell off it had the other day. If I guess the cool thing about the internet is it's there forever. Download the video if you feel uncomfortable, but try me in 5 years. I would buy any one of these shares. I would actually bet you right now. I could go out Monday, market buy every one of these, one share of each, and every one of these in 3 to 5 years is well above where they're at right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, agreed.
yeah. So again, we're not coming at it from a trading standpoint. There's things you can do again to maximize and get more juice out of that lemon, I guess. Um, but as we wrap this up, I always like to ask a question. Show up in the comments right now. Which one do you think won't be up in 3 to 5 years? And I want like a solid. Give me a real reason, not because your grandma told you, or your wife's boyfriend said it was not a good one. Like give me a real reason why one of these won't be up in 5 years. Yeah,
Yeah, I'd love that.
yeah.
It's always good to hear different perspectives.
Sometimes your IQ better be at least 3 digits. All right. If your IQ rivals your thermostat, I don't want to hear
It
it.
doesn't mean I have to respect the different perspective, but I still like hearing the perspective.
Yeah. In all seriousness, I do. Like nobody's actually come on here just to troll. There's been some bad ideas, or just like again ideas I don't agree with,
Yeah.
however strongly or not. But if I think you're stupid, I probably won't reply. But but if you come on and I think you're I might think your idea is stupid, but it actually has some merit, or you put some thought into it. I will debate you until we are just blue in the face, until our fingers fall off. Because in those debates, you might bring up something I didn't see. So I'm all about a debate. It's not a matter of ego or whose car's faster. I don't care.
Right.
I do care about where my money's at. So if you got something I need to know, I am all I'm all ears, or I'm all
Exactly.
because I'm reading a text. But
Exactly. If
yeah,
if you got something that's really bad, that would change my thesis,
yeah,
I want to know about it.
yeah, full send.
Agreed.
All right, let's wrap it up. We did 10, 11 tickers, an hour 10. My top 5 video was 54 minutes. So, I feel like we kept a good pace.
We
Let me
did.
know we're gonna wrap it up here. Let me know in the comments down below. I don't care if you agree or disagree. You don't have to say anything of that. Let me know if you made it to the end. If you've actually watched it this far, I need to know who the MVPs are, because this is gonna come back in some later videos. I want to know who's actually here from beginning to end. And I want to know how many names. I'll be able to recognize the names later. I want to see who's commenting, who's engaging the most, who's here. Because we're gonna do some fun stuff later, and I need to know who the MVPs are. So we'll wrap it up here. Mike, hit him with the outro.
See you guys.
Nothing stopping this guy.
Nope.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next video. Subscribe, all the cool stuff. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.